LevelUp Labs.
Hey, my name is Matt, and I'm running the CyberFox blog. So, about a year ago, SANS launched a program called LevelUp. It's intended to help people in IT to become successful security practitioners. SANS offered a variety of at-night talks as well as webcasts where instructors talk about how they got into the industry and how to excel as a security practitioner. Last week, I had the pleasure of hosting a Level Up webcast, and besides talking about how I got into security, I also mentioned that there is a huge demand in DFIR labs, and so I suggested that you team up and build your DFIR labs together. Besides the fact that you learn a lot, you also get to know a lot of people, and I think a good network is very important to become a security professional. Aren't there enough labs out there? Well, we do have a lot of penetration testing labs out there, but not so many forensic labs. So, when it comes to forensic labs, it's mostly focusing on certain artifacts or certain techniques, like memory forensics or dissecting certain pieces of malware. We rarely ever see labs that cover a whole breach, showing different machines, showing the attacker pivoting from one to the other, and then going into all those artifacts in a single story. So I do believe there's quite some room for these kinds of labs. What is so hard about creating forensic labs? IT forensics shows exactly what happened on a system, so you usually can't alter lab artifacts without the analyst recognizing it. That means you have to get everything right in one take, or you'll have to start over. That's especially hard when you try to create realistic labs that do not only cover the attack, but a whole lot of simulated user behavior as well. If that lab takes you over a week or even over a month to capture, well, really don't want to start over again. So what are Level Up Labs? Level Up Labs is an idea I came up with when I was preparing for my Level Up webcast. Essentially, I want to encourage new and seasoned security practitioners to create their own labs. To give you a start, I will show you how to create a small fake company network as well as a rudimentary attacker infrastructure. With that, you can train your penetration testing skills as well as your analytical skills as a forensicator. I'm not going to build a super fancy lab, but a foundation for you to integrate your ideas. How do I join Level Up Labs? You don't really need to join anything, just create a tweet mentioning hashtag Level Up Labs and state that you are looking for someone to build your lab with. You can also build your lab alone and just present it using the same hashtag. Let's keep that as easy as possible. So let's start by planning my little lab. First of all, we have an attacker side and a victim side. On the victim side, I want to replicate a small organization's network. That means that I will install a small domain controller, including a couple of clients that act as members of that domain. I might also put a little web server into the mix to give the attacker an alternative way to get into the network. On the attacker side, I will install either Metasploit or PowerSploit to run some sort of command and control service. Now it's time to decide where we put those machines. For my little lab, I decided to keep the victim side in VMware Fusion on my local machine and install the attacker side somewhere on the internet. The reason for that is I don't want to expose my machines on the real internet, whereas it's better to have the attacker side on the internet because some of the techniques are just harder to replicate if you do that locally. The other alternative that you would have is placing your vulnerable victim network in some of the clouds out there like Azure, EC2, whatever, and run it there and have real attackers penetrate your machines. But I'll keep that one for later. I will document building my lab in 7 videos. The first one is the very one you are watching here. In the next video, we will start building the domain. That means we will set up the victim infrastructure that includes at least one domain controller, 2 or 3 clients, and a potentially vulnerable web server. Once we finish building the victim infrastructure, we can head over building the attack infrastructure. For that, we will deploy at least one droplet on DigitalOcean and install a tool like Metasploit or PowerSploit or something else to run our attacks against the victim infrastructure. Congratulations, we now got everything running to execute our first attack on the environment. As we finished our first attack against the network, it's now time to save the forensic data. In addition to that, I want to focus a little bit on how to reset the lab in the best way to keep it usable for the next scenario. When you look at the data you acquired in the step before, you will realize that something is missing. Right, you don't see any user activity. User activity is what makes it more difficult to identify what the attacker did. So let's dig a little bit into the topic on how to generate user data. With the user data now present, let's try to run a second scenario, acquire the data and compare it to what you found in the first scenario. It's gotten a little bit more difficult, didn't it? Thanks for watching this introduction into how I'm about to build up my LevelUp labs. Looking forward to seeing you again in the upcoming videos.